Namaste. Hi, I'm Bruce Benefiel, also known as Zendor, and welcome to One World. Welcome to this week's edition of One World. One World is based on exploring the common fears that we share and how we can work through them collectively in order to make our lives better. And the objective of One World is to allow you, our viewers, to view other people who've gone through similar situations so that you may be able to connect at some level with what you're going through and may be able to see some glimmer at the end of the tunnel. And I hope you enjoy this evening's show. We've got Diane Facinelli from the Arizona Humanities Council. She's the Resource Center Director. And we also have Hal Metcalf, who is the Corporate Relations Director for Western International University. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I think I got that out okay tonight, Hal? Okay. Diane, how did you get involved with the Humanities Council? What prompted you to go into that area?
Well, actually, it seemed to happen by accident. I was involved in the humanities in my education. I just enjoyed studying history, literature, history and criticism of the arts, those things, and it was my love of that that sort of led to the job at the Humanities Council. I thought I was going to teach, but I had a good friend who worked at the Humanities Council, suggested I might get a job there, sort of filling in to help while the executive director was away, and it just sort of grew into something that I really enjoy and have a chance to be involved in my love.
Was there a common thread throughout your study of humanities that you clung to, that you were looking for in everything?
Just what I really enjoyed about it was seeing how people in all different cultures, as much as possible, reacted to their world, how they expressed themselves in ideas and paintings, and to see common threads in different cultures at different times. I really enjoyed that.
Did you see it mainly through just the types of expression, or were the mediums that they used similar?
Mainly the types of expressions is what I focused on. Just the similar messages I saw, and also appreciation of the differences as well.
That's neat. How, you're now working with Western International University, and you've gone through a lot of other, from what you were telling me, very unique and really interesting.
Yes, varied career.
Yeah.
Right.
What prompted you to get involved with WIU?
Well, when I was in college, I played on the varsity baseball and basketball teams. And that's all I wanted to do was coach. And I spent my first 5 years in coaching and education, teaching. I got an opportunity while I was doing that to work in broadcasting. And that led to an offer from TV Guide magazine to go with them and give up coaching. And I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to quit the thing I'd always wanted to be in all my life. I mean, from the time I was able to go to school. I was going to give up coaching and teaching, which is what I wanted to be, to go with TV Guide. And I did that. I made that career switch. But I was very successful in the high school coaching ranks. But the money was so good, and the horizon looked so good, and the immediate reward seemed to be there. But it was very scary making that step.
No doubt. I mean, it's a drastic career shift.
I'd already reached tenure and all that, you know. I was really in an area where I was really not sleeping well for the last 3 or 4 days of making that career.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but statistically now, don't we in our careers go through 5 to 7 changes?
And it'd probably be more than that in this generation.
I think I've
by
been through a
choice.
couple dozen so far. No.
A lot of the day won't be by choice, as I had. So I think that's the difference. When you have choice and you make it, that's a different thing. Then you're betting on the roulette table yourself. When someone asks you to leave, you have to find a job. Then it's a
Where you're in
different kind of
control
mindset.
rather than someone else.
It's a different kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But then I stayed with TV Guide for 18 years and opened up TV Guide out here in the West, from El Paso to Las Vegas. And then when they asked me to move back to Philadelphia, I resigned to stay here and live here and to carve out new careers here.
Another major addressing of the fear of, hey, what am I going to do?
Yes, and totally no job in sight. But I had done a lot of networking. I was past president of the Advertising Club and the Television Academy and the Rotary Club, so I figured somewhere in there I had a network that I could get a job through.
Sure.
So that was the support group that I counted on to help me when I was looking. And it worked. It worked a lot.
Obviously.
Yes.
Diane, what kinds of, as you were going through, did you have any kinds of consternations or fears that you had to address in going with the humanities? Because it's, it's a lot different area than most people normally go into.
Right. Well, the first fear is, what am I going to do to make a living? It's not as obvious as getting a business degree or engineering or something like that, but I wanted to do something I loved, and I thought I'd just let nature take its course and see what happened with it. Just follow your heart first and see what happens. And even though I thought, well, what I want to do is teach, even though I didn't do that, something else opened up that allowed me to be in the humanities. So just following what I enjoyed doing and what I loved to be involved in the first place really opened up doors for me, even though I didn't see what doors might be there.
You mentioned one key thing, following your heart.
Right.
How often do we do that? And I mean, I guess how often are we allowed to do that now, where we have that ability of being able to follow our heart in whatever way? I mean, when it comes down to a decision of right or wrong, it seems like we all know at a base level what that is. Yet, how often are we able to really rely and move through a career with that in mind? In your efforts with the Humanities Council, do you see people with common interests or from a heart level of getting involved with that type of I don't want to call it an industry. What would be a better word?
Well, we deal a lot with people who are concerned about what makes us human. And no matter what aspect they come to us from, they're interested in exploring different cultures. They're interested in exploring ideas. They're interested in exploring what is of value to us. You find that not only the people who are involved in the staff of the Humanities Council, but the people who come to us to present programs or to present ideas for grants, that they want to study more about what it is to be a human being and what it is to be maybe a Native American human being. What is it to be a Navajo? What are values that we hold dear is one project that came to us once. So you find that with people, there's this great interest in just learning more about humanity, which is an exciting thing to be involved with.
Yeah, and I would think that would lend itself much more to helping to build a stronger community.
Yes.
By wanting to experience more and to learn more about each other and break through the things.
That's exactly what we're trying to do, is increase awareness among everyone in Arizona as much as we possibly can about uniqueness, about differences, about sameness as well.
How do you feel personally about that? Where do you connect?
You mean with working with the...
Yeah, what would you like to see happen as far as the common experience of people?
What I like to see happen is for people to recognize that there are many differences in the world and that that's okay. We tend to shut ourselves up and consider that people should look like us and act like us and speak like us and believe like we believe. And what I'd like to see is people learn as much about people who talk differently, who believe differently, who act differently, and at least gain an appreciation for that, if not a full understanding. And I think by learning more about other cultures, that can bring us together.
And I think sometimes, too, we see things in other cultures that make more sense than what
Right.
we've been taught in our own.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, what do we do? You know, and we adopt that, so we become more broadened in our own understanding and our own actions. How, with what you're doing with Western International now, do you see, and I'm guessing you would see it from a management level, and maybe even in some of the students, you'd mentioned that you had some students from Russia in town. Do you see a common experience in that light where they are moving to understand each other and to build that network on a larger scale?
It's going on constantly at our school. We were founded by a group called the World University, which was Madame Schweitzer and Albert Schweitzer, Madame Nehru, and Pablo Casals. And we were founded with the idea that we could do that we could build a one world of education. We have a campus in London, and in our Phoenix branch we have 58 different countries represented, and now 59 with the Russians are coming aboard, PhDs. And they all must intermix with the culture that we have, at the same time learn the entrepreneurial skills of the American business place.
Right.
And then we must also bring the Americans in and throw them into that mix. And then a professor who has worked all day in his field will try to integrate that into a workshop kind of classroom, where everybody learns about the mores and the humanistic values and the business values of each culture. So it's very difficult for any teacher to teach at our place, because he has to deal with a 35-year-old who's just gotten off work doing accounting or computer work, or going into a classroom with someone from Kenya or someone from Switzerland or Red China, and making it all work for each of them. And they become great communicators.
But do you find that there is a sharing of the essence of their cultures at a base level, or is
There
it
is.
more...
We have Iranians, Iraqians, Saudi Arabians, Kuwaitis, Qatar. We had no problem at all with our students during this late uprising that went on, because they have a different kind of attitude on campus than they would have there. Of course, their emotions were involved, but on campus they were there for a reason and a rationale. And they didn't do a thing like that. They didn't give us any problems. When they come here,
did you even expect any problems from them, knowing, you know, their reasons for being there?
We didn't expect any, and we didn't get any. And it's because we all have a feeling that goes on. About once a month we put on an ethnic bake-off, so to speak, where a person from each country brings a dish from their country, and we have a buffet in the auditorium, and we kind of sample and integrate each other into the world of food, if nothing else. And we also have a Rotaract club on campus where we are not only teaching them how to handle business, but how to learn how to be as charitable as Americans are. If we can send a foreign kid back to his country after he's worked in Rotaract and he has worked on some charity plans and helped a couple of charities out, we then have a system where we send a letter from our local Rotary Club to their hometown Rotary Club recommending them for a position in that area. And we think that's rather unique, that we have taught this person about the charity that Americans have and how to give it. And it's a major part, we think, of their education. They will now be a different kind of entrepreneurial person when they go home. They'll have that in them to be charitable and giving.
Do you find that other cultures are charitable in giving, and the difference maybe in the American culture is that we are geared towards that entrepreneurial spirit?
Some of the countries are very giving, but they're not globally skewed to giving the way we are.
Yeah, I don't think they really don't have a global impact
That's
like
right.
the United States does.
That we have. So we are in tune with that global kind of affair, and therefore we must teach and learn about that from a global instinct. We now have a global international business management degree that we give because it's needed, because no one's going to work anyway but international. If we can take that international student and make him a charitable Indian, then we've got a different kind of person we put back into that. We've got a humanistic kind of person with the humanities built in that he didn't come with, maybe. He may have had them, but may not have had a chance to utilize them.
Diane, how do you see your work being able to bridge the barriers that we often experience in our own culture? I mean, even in Phoenix, I mean, we have the separate areas of it's not quite as bad as San Francisco maybe, but but we do have those areas. How do you see that affecting the relationship in those and bringing those together?
What we're involved in, to a large extent, is trying to bring education about other cultures to the general public, so that a group in Sun City can have a Native American talk about Navajo culture and art. So we do that. So you can learn about other cultures, anybody in Portal, in Sun City, in Kingman, anywhere throughout the state. So we try to do that as much as possible to get as much of an education out there as we can to the people. We're also trying to reach out to major ethnic groups throughout the state as well, to the black community, to the Native Americans, to the Hispanic community, and ask them, what do you want from the Humanities Council? What kinds of programs would you like to put on? So that, for instance, they will tell us that Native American festivals, for instance, they do those all the time. The Humanities Council can help bring an element of education. In other words, instead of just watching some people dance, we have someone up there explaining what that dance means.
That's very important.
So that you don't go away just thinking, wasn't that nice? You have more of an understanding of how important this is, that, you know, the Apache war dance wasn't something that lasted for 5 minutes as it does in a little show, but it's something that went on all night before a battle, and how important that was to get up the juices
and you're able to connect with it more at an emotional level rather than just in an intellectual or visual level.
Exactly.
Yes, we take, one of the things we do at school is we have a 5-day course where the foreign students are taken up to the Navajo Nation. And they spend the morning on one mesa with the chief and the medicine man. And then they have lunch with that person. Then they shift to another mesa. And they learn the Southwest cultures that way and take that home also. We think that's a great idea, that each mesa has a different medicine man and chief there.
You know, you mentioned the Southwestern cultures. I find it odd that most of our well-known teachers, world leaders and teachers of old, are all from the Eastern Hemisphere.
Yes.
What happened to the ones that were over here? I mean, you hear of a few, but by and large, the native cultures have been ignored. Is that kind of what you're seeing with that? I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
We want very much to keep that original flavor alive and all the knowledges they've gained passed on down to us, so they can be weighed and put in their proper perspective wherever needed. But to take a kid from Kenya and put him on the reservation for 5 days where he visits a mesa different mesa twice a day, has to come out of there with some feeling for the Indian knowledge and the Indian spirit and what their nation means to them. It's just a wonderful program, and it's a credit program. It's unique in itself.
In the West, we've certainly had that bias too. We consider when the West was tamed, you know, how the West was won, as though there was nothing here until the white settlers from the East came, and that's one of the things.
That's when the history books started being written. It's really marginalized information.
Right, exactly. And what we need to learn more about, and what the Humanities Council was involved in with projects too, is learning about all the peoples who were here before that, and the great impact they had. And it wasn't something that was suddenly discovered and tamed, and then therefore became viable, only when the white man came.
How, with your efforts at WIU, do you see that as a goal? Let me put it this way. Do you see it being a balance of resources, globally speaking? Is that kind of what you're wanting to achieve through that?
Sure, we need that. It's there's no way to hide anymore. You're going to have to work internationally regardless of what industry you're in.
Right.
If we're working on a social level or whatever, we're going to deal with international business or international relations. If we can get any head start on that in our sector, then we think that our kids, and our students, our city, our state are better off for it. We've been able to send out signals of our knowledge, their knowledge, a mixture of all that. And when you take all that home, we had a young lady from Switzerland marry a young man from Saudi Arabia. Can you imagine the culture shock that went through those two families and through the university itself?
It brings to mind, you know, the aspect of Phoenix.
Sure.
You know, and of crashing and burning.
Yes.
And everything coming down and then building anew. And I think that's really what can be looked forward to. And I don't know that enough people realize that that truly is going on. They're seeing a lot of things happening, and they don't know, they have the faith maybe, but they don't see the results, or they don't know what's taking place, and they're losing the security in that. And I think our economic system, at least from what I'm seeing right now and what we're all experiencing, it's not chaotic, but it's nearly so for a lot of people.
Well, the business schools, the business colleges for a long time got too narrow in their thinking about how they should teach their people. And they focused so much on the business aspect of the business that they forgot about the humanities part and the social
Or the
part.
ecological part.
And so we brought all that back into WIU, and we force-fed it back into everyone else because we believe that you have to have a well-rounded person who graduates, not just a tunnel vision kind of person. So
Sure.
we've included the Southwest cultures. You cannot sit in a classroom without having one or two people from as many as 6 or 8 from different foreign countries. There has to be something there that you pick up and that you'd give them. I mean, it just has to take place. And that's the wonder of the exchange that goes on. You don't know how to act in another country unless you're prepared for it. You can't do business there.
Exactly, especially from a sales and marketing standpoint.
not.
Unless you know the guidelines of those cultures you're going into, you're not going to be able to deal with them. They're always going to be hesitant, or there's always going to be objections that just seemingly cannot be overcome.
May I touch this person? Do I shake this person's hand?
Do I look him in the
Do
eye?
I look at them? Yes.
Yeah.
All of those are signals that we, as Americans, do and accept and expect.
Right.
But not every culture deals that way. And our students are getting that humanistic kind of teaching, and we think that that's the way that it should be done. You really cannot work
It
unless
sure
you know what's
seems like
going
it,
on.
because like you're saying, you know, it's a balance. Bringing in the aspects of all the different cultures and moving towards working in harmony as opposed to peace. You know,
Well,
world harmony.
Yes, put yourself in Russia or Poland today. There's an explosion of ethnicity that's just wild. The Georgians want to do something, the Latvians want to do something else, the Lithuanians want to, the Polish want to do something else. Based on what? You know, their past history and their humanities and the richness of their past. And they want that to be a part of who they are. They're not just breaking away for economic reasons, they're breaking away because this was our native area and this is what we had and we want it back.
Yeah. We want to reestablish our
Sure.
roots, find out what they are.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing that. We have the 5 Russian PhDs at school right now. And that's tremendous. Just think of the learning we're going to get from them and they're going to take back.
Right.
Should we send them to the Indian Mesa for 5 days? I mean, wouldn't that be something?
So I guess for the both of you, you know, you wouldn't really say that that the barriers as such are diminishing, and that you can actually see them coming down from your perspective, where someone in a little different type of lifestyle would not be able to see that. And I think that our audience is really going to be able to benefit from that in knowing that that's happening. You know, as I began to mention before, that I feel that the essence of world harmony
Good word.
stems from that. You know, we've heard a lot about world peace,
Right.
and we really don't think about what that truly means. Peace indicates a victor and a vanquished. And there's no there's more of a dictatorial kind of, okay, we're in control, and you'll do this. We'll give you this, and so on and so forth. But with a balancing of resources towards world harmony, you have that symbiotic expression of life.
Sure.
Is there anything that you can offer that could be a pearl of wisdom or a piece of advice for our audience that they could integrate in their own lives from what you've done or what you've experienced?
I think the one thing I would say is that we're so used to judging people, and especially people who do not sound like we do or act like we do or believe the way we do. If we can just try to suspend that and appreciate other cultures, other ideas, other languages, other beliefs, that will help us all. Just realize that you are judging and try and stop it then and open yourself up to experience.
Yeah, sometimes it just comes just so naturally that we really don't think, and to be in control of our thoughts is very important.
Yes.
And we're not often there. I think we're working towards it, though.
Hope so.
How about you?
I think most of us have not done a good job of preparing the one package we have to sell in life, and that's our own package to an employer, or to, if you're an entrepreneur, to your audience or your customers. I think you have to do that. You have to really look inside yourself and see who you are, what you have to offer, how flexible are you, and how willing are you to go along with what's happening in the world today, and how able are you. And you have to get yourself flexible. I'm simply totally against someone going to college and taking a single major without backing it up with 2 minors. That makes them flexible so that they can be whatever happens in the next change. Because electronically we do different things that we do now. I went to a plant today where they're laying off the whole plant. So everybody there has to re-engineer themselves for their next jobs. So what I'm saying to you is, just make your package as good as it can be. You remember the old saying,
Right.
a good salesman can always get a job?
Right.
That's it.
Thank you both very much, and I'm sure our audience has joined. I certainly have, and I'm honored that you did come and join me here this evening. Thanks. And thank you for watching. Are you out there? Are you watching the show? Let us know. Write us. Care of One World. P.O. Box 32035, Phoenix, Arizona 85064. Let us know how you feel. What do you think about the concept of one world, and how do you feel like it can be brought about? Is it something that we really need to consider, or is it something that you would like to ignore? Would you like to see some different things on the show, or do you have problems with what we're presenting now? These are all questions that only you can answer, and please write us and do so. Again, I'm Bruce Benefiel. This is One World. Namaste.